Alright everyone, we start off today talking about critical race theory. Again, the huge weight around the liberals' neck, and the leftoids won't let them abandon the issue, which is really bad because repeatedly, over and over and over again, time after time in states, at the local level in actual school districts, in public discourse, even among some aspects of the fucking liberal legacy media, critical race theory has lost. The problem is this. And this is why the leftoids are so up in arms about the idea of curricular transparency, which is the term for the idea that, yes, indeed, the study materials and notes should be made available to parents. There shouldn't be an opaque process in a taxpayer-funded public educational facility that your kid, it goes to, that you help to fund. They shouldn't be withholding information about what your kid's learning. The whole idea of an opposition to that transparency is for malevolent purposes. You would only care about that transparency being there if, number one, you expected the parents were fucking completely stupid and would hate a genuine education, in other words, you're insinuating that they're uneducated rubes. Well, parents don't usually like it when you insist that about them. Or number two, if you intend to indoctrinate them and you realize that you've been caught out. The latter is generally the case. This is a case where they want to be able to teach communism to public school kids. You're not going to get that in a private school. You're not going to get that from a tutor in some rich person's house. The one percenters, they're exempt from this entire cultural debate. They want your kid to be dumber. That's effectively what they want. They want less understanding of civics and revisionist history that lends itself to people adopting effectively a Marxist attitude. I wrote a book, and it's still available on Amazon, Critical Race Theory Debunked, explaining the premises of critical race theory. One of the premises is a self-admission to Marxism being an influence, which makes sense because if you look at the base proposition of critical race theory, you've effectively just taken what Marx and others said, you removed the class struggle, or you rendered it secondary, and you inserted racial struggle as the primary motive for it. The reason that this is being done coincides with the end of the Cold War perfectly for a reason. The reason is this. Marxism lost the economic argument. Even most leftoids don't self-profess communism. Some of them are communists and just less honest, but a lot of them are like, oh, no, I don't support that system. I hear about this social democracy thing. That sounds a lot better. They're usually misusing the term, but we'll give them brownie points for giving a shit about continuity to some extent. On the economic end, capitalism won. Or at least a perverted, corrupted variant of it that unfortunately does contain elements of far leftoidism. But it's better than the alternative. It's better than everything being state-run. Under communism, sometimes you have bread. Under capitalism, occasionally you get a bread line. Or even under interventionism. And they said, well, fuck, we lost the war on economics. Well, we'll switch to a culture war. Americans really love identity politics already by the time that CRT becomes sort of developed as a theory in name. It's really more of a revisionist hypothesis for propagandistic purposes than it is a genuine academic theory, and therefore, again, should not be taught as a serious theory in taxpayer-funded schools any more than the idea that creationism is true and the world is on the back of a giant turtle. It's the same level of absurdity. There'd be the same debate over whether it should be taught. No, we try to teach in situations like with history, where a lot of it's subjective analysis, we try to teach something that at least approximates and approaches a real objective truth. Like, this is the specific year that an event happened. This is the specific figure said to have invented this chemical compound, but we're not sure because there was a patent debate in some cases. You can be objective about those things. CRT is completely non-objective. It is just a reinterpretation of all history. It's saying, okay, these things happened. We're going to look at them through the lens of white man bad. That's pretty much all it is. By the way, it effectively heaps insult on every other group as well by claiming that their history is just one long string of oppressions by other people. And by the way, those groups never attacked one another within the supposed racially homogenous groups. Again, critical race theory overlooks a basic reality there as well. Again, critical race theory has also spawned the BIPOC thing, the idea that a person from Indonesia and a person from Guyana are inseparably the same under modern leftoidism. It's almost become a bigoted diatribe. When they say people of color, I hear colored people, effectively. Now, keep in mind that down below there will be a pinned comment. I know a little bit belated in the video, but this is a little bit of a rant. A pinned comment with links to other video hosting sites that I use. If you're watching this video on YouTube, keep in mind I make exclusive content every single day. That being said, out of the way, here's the problem. Liberals, link in the description as well, archived of course, keep trying to defend critical race theory. I don't know at this point what's possessing some of these people. They've clearly lost the debate. You're not going to change people's minds about critical race theory. You can call it racial justice. You can do what Hillary Clinton and Joy Reid are doing and pretend that opponents of critical race theory, Marxist hucksterism, are book burners. That's not reality, though. It's not the optic reality that the average American parent believes in. It's not an objective reality. It's not even really a subjective theoretical reality. The people that are attempting to burn books are the CRT pushers. These are the people involved in the left-wing cancel culture movement, etc., etc. It is very funny, by the way, to see them try to spin cancel culture as a right-wing thing now. But you're losing that debate. Usually when you lose a debate, you can sidestep it. You can try to reframe the whole thing. I guess that's what they're doing. They failed. At some point, you just have to give it up. You got to admit that Marxism, once it was exposed that it was involved in the curricula of taxpayer-funded schools, this is something that was overlooked for some time. Their elements had been there. But it got bad enough that some parents wised up. They went to the school board meetings. Apparently, this is something liberals wish they wouldn't do either. They hope that the parents and the students will all be ignorant. And they showed up and said, hey, what's this I read in this textbook? This isn't real. This is a bunch of horseshit. In fact, it sounds exactly like communist theory, only you've changed out bourgeois for white. Hey, what gives? Why I'm paying taxes? Why is my kid being taught this? And in the era of social media, unlike 20 years ago, that parent could then post about it to their boomer friends on Facebook. Or if they're a little bit younger, maybe using Twitter or, at this point, Telegram or Gab or something. And then it became a counter-movement thing. People realized, hey, I went to the school board too, and my little Jimmy, I'm in Illinois. This person posting on here is in New Mexico. I'm halfway across the country, the same thing's happening. Jed over there lives in Maine. He says the same thing's happening too. In fact, they're using the same textbook. What gives? And they realize that there is a concerted effort to dumb down historical education in the United States, and teachers love it because it makes their job really easy when they can just say, oh, one race bad, other race is good. Well, that's the end of the lesson. They can just play movies now. They don't have as much work to do. You got to realize a lot of public school educators in a lot of states really do suck, partially because the teachers' unions won't let the really sucky ones get fired. Some states do better than others. It's still a big problem. The fact is that critical race theory is not racial justice. Curricular transparency is certainly the opposite of book burning. Opposition to CRT is patriotic. It is not a problematic position, and that's why a supermajority of parents and indeed Americans across the board oppose teaching CRT in taxpayer-funded schools. But these morons keep supporting it. It's like, again, you have to go back to the metaphor of the dumbest monkey in the zoo experiment that won't stop pressing the button that electrocutes its own asshole because it never is capable of learning that by just pressing the other button, it gets a piece of fruit. All the other monkeys learned it. This monkey is too stupid to realize that, or maybe is just completely masochistic. I'm honestly beginning to wonder if some of these liberals aren't like, are you ex-Republicans? So you got it ingrained in you for like 20, 30 years, you're supposed to lose, and then I guess you took it to the Democratic Party and to liberalism as a broader ideology. You just couldn't get rid of that habit of losing. Wouldn't that be funny? That's about all. Peace out.